Have you ever felt like the VA compensation system is rigged against you? Like there's a secret rulebook they're using that you just can't get your hands on? You're not paranoid. The VA compensation rating system is a labyrinth, intentionally complex, and filled with hidden mechanisms that can drastically limit your monthly payout, even if your medical evidence is ironclad. We're not talking about simple math errors. We're talking about systemic blind spots and specific rules the VA relies on that they will never proactively explain to you. If you are rated at 70%, 80%, or even 90% and you feel stuck, this is the most critical information you will ever absorb. We are going deep into the shadows of the rating schedule, exposing the 7 most crucial factors that determine your financial future, factors the VA absolutely hopes you never fully understand. Stay with me, because missing even one of these points could cost you thousands of dollars every single month for the rest of your life. Let's start with the one thing almost every veteran gets wrong: the math. It sounds simple, right? If you have 3 disabilities rated at 50%, 30%, and 20%, you should have 100%. Wrong. This is the insidious nature of the VA Combined Rating Table, a system designed specifically to prevent you from reaching 100% quickly. They call it the whole person theory, but it feels more like the whole person devaluation theory. When you receive your first rating, say 50%, the VA considers you 50% disabled and 50% able. Your next disability rating, the 30% one, is not calculated against the original 100%. It's calculated against the remaining 50% ability. 30% of 50% is 15%. So your new total is 50% plus 15%, which equals 65%. Now we look at the VA rounding table. 65% rounds up to 70%. See how quickly the numbers shrink? That 20% rating you earned is now calculated against the remaining 35% ability. 20% of 35% is only 7%. Your new total is 72%. Still rounds to 70%. You added a significant disability, but your compensation didn't move an inch. This rounding scheme is the silent killer of higher ratings. The VA rounds to the nearest 10, but they only round up if the remainder is 5 or more. 74% stays 70%. 84% stays 80%. This gap, the 4-point buffer, is where countless veterans get stuck, perpetually hovering just beneath the threshold for the next pay bracket. You need to understand that the higher your starting combined rating is, the harder it becomes to add points. Getting from 90% to 100% is mathematically the hardest leap in the entire system because every new rating is calculated against a minuscule remaining percentage of ability. For example, if you are at 90%, you only have 10% remaining ability. To get a 10% bump, which would take you to 91%, rounding to 100%, you would need a new rating that equates to 10% of that remaining 10% ability, which is almost impossible unless you get one large single rating. This is why maximizing the initial ratings for your primary conditions is absolutely non-negotiable. Don't chase 5 small 10% ratings, chase one solid 50% rating. The compounding effect works against you, meaning you must front-load your evidence for the biggest possible numbers early on. The system is designed to reward large, single disabilities disproportionately compared to an accumulation of smaller ones. This mathematical barrier is the first hidden wall you must learn to climb over. Now, let's talk about something even more subtle than the math. The diagnostic code dilemma. Every single disability rating you receive is tied to a specific diagnostic code, DC, a number that links your condition to a specific section of the Schedule for Rating Disabilities, SFRD. This code is everything. It dictates the criteria used by the VA rater, and more importantly, it dictates the maximum possible rating for that condition. Here's the secret. Sometimes the symptoms you suffer from could fit under 2 or 3 different diagnostic codes, and the VA will almost always choose the code that offers the lowest potential rating or the one that is hardest to prove. Take, for example, chronic pain stemming from a musculoskeletal injury. The VA could rate this under the specific joint injury code, which might cap out at 30% if mobility is only slightly limited. Or they could potentially rate it under a generalized pain disorder or nerve impingement code, which might offer a higher maximum rating based on functional loss. The key is how the C&P examiner documents the condition. They are not incentivized to find the most beneficial code for you. They are incentivized to accurately describe the medical findings. If your doctor or representative doesn't specifically push for the most advantageous diagnostic code based on the severity of your functional impairment, you lose. This is particularly relevant in mental health. PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, and major depressive disorder often present with similar symptoms: sleep disturbance, irritability, social isolation. But the criteria for rating them, particularly the frequency and duration of hospitalizations or inability to maintain employment, can differ slightly. The rater must select the code that best fits the predominant symptoms, and if your medical records are muddy or lack clarity on the most severe functional limitations, the rater defaults to the simplest or most restrictive code. Furthermore, the VA has specific rules against pyramiding, rating the same symptom under multiple diagnostic codes. For instance, if you have nerve damage causing pain, they won't rate the pain separately from the nerve damage. But what if the pain is so severe it independently causes chronic insomnia and depression? You must argue that the pain is the proximate cause of the secondary mental health condition, allowing for separate rating under a different DC. The VA rater, without explicit guidance from you or your representative, will default to combining symptoms under a single, lower-rated DC, arguing that the symptom overlap constitutes pyramiding. You must be hyper-specific about the functional loss associated with each diagnosis, ensuring the examiner and rater are forced to consider the highest possible DC based on the severity of your daily life disruption, not just the clinical diagnosis itself. This is a battle fought on paper, using specific code numbers, and if you don't know the code you're aiming for, you will miss the target entirely. The third hidden path to higher compensation is the secondary service connection secret. This is arguably the most overlooked and underutilized tool in the veteran's arsenal. Most veterans focus solely on conditions that occurred directly during active duty, the primary connection. But many significant disabilities that manifest years later are actually caused or aggravated by those primary service-connected conditions. The VA doesn't advertise this. Why would they? Every secondary connection is an increased liability for them. Think of it this way. You have a service-connected knee injury, rated at 20%. Because you favor that knee, you start walking differently, putting undue stress on your opposite hip and lower back. Years later, you develop severe degenerative arthritis in your hip. That hip condition is not due to your military service directly, but it is proximately caused by your service-connected knee injury. That hip condition is now eligible for secondary service connection. The VA requires 3 things for a successful secondary claim: a primary service-connected disability, a current secondary disability, and a medical nexus opinion linking the two. The nexus opinion is the critical piece the VA hates. They want to see a clear statement from a medical professional that the secondary condition is at least as likely as not caused or aggravated by the primary condition. Veterans often fail this because they try to connect the secondary condition to service in general, instead of the specific already rated disability. You must be precise. Did your service-connected sleep apnea require you to take medication that caused chronic acid reflux? That reflux is secondary. Did your service-connected PTSD cause you to gain significant weight, leading directly to hypertension or type 2 diabetes? Those are secondary. The key is understanding that the VA compensation system is designed to treat the entire chain reaction of health consequences resulting from service. If the VA denies a claim, look immediately for a secondary connection. Did they deny your direct claim for migraines? Maybe the migraines are secondary to your existing 50% rating for TBI. Did they deny your claim for ED? Perhaps it's secondary to the medications you take for service-connected depression or hypertension. The secondary connection is a loophole, a mechanism to bypass the initial service connection hurdle, but you must meticulously document the medical bridge between the two conditions. This is where a strong independent medical opinion, an IMO, is worth its weight in gold. The VA will try to argue that the secondary condition is just part of the natural aging process, or that it's idiopathic, cause unknown. Your job is to shut down that argument with an undeniable medical nexus. This is often the path that takes a veteran from a stalled 70% rating straight to 90% or 100%. Next, we must confront the C&P exam catastrophe. The compensation and pension C&P exam is the single most important event in your claims process, yet most veterans walk in unprepared, treating it like a normal doctor's visit. It is not. The C&P examiner is not your treating physician. They are a contractor working for the VA whose primary function is to gather data points to fill out a TIOP, disability benefits. Questionnaire, DBQ. They are trained to be objective, which often translates to being dismissive of subjective complaints. The secret here is understanding what the examiner isn't listening for. They are not interested in your life story or the history of your service. They are interested in your current functional limitations on your worst day. Veterans often make the catastrophic mistake of downplaying their symptoms because they feel tough or they had a good night's sleep before the exam. You must articulate your symptoms accurately, which means describing the severity, frequency, and duration of the impact on your daily life. If your back pain limits you to lifting only 5 pounds, you must say that. If your anxiety prevents you from driving on the highway, you must say that. Crucially, the examiner is trained to look for inconsistencies between your reported symptoms and their physical findings. If you claim debilitating knee pain but walk briskly into the exam room without a limp, they will note that. You must ensure your statements align with the medical evidence they see. Furthermore, the VA uses specific language in the DBQs that often leads to lower ratings. For example, when rating mental health conditions, the examiner must check boxes regarding occupational and social impairment. If they check mild or moderate, you are stuck below 70%. You must ensure your narrative pushes the examiner toward the boxes that indicate severe or total impairment, detailing specific instances of job loss, inability to maintain relationships, or reliance on family members for basic functioning. The VA rater reads the DBQ, not your personal statement, unless the DBQ is incomplete. Therefore, the battle must be won at the C&P exam itself. Never assume the examiner will connect the dots. You must explicitly state the nexus, the link between your current disability and your military service, even if it seems obvious. My chronic headaches, which started 6 months after my deployment, are directly related to the blast exposure I experienced in 2015. Say it out loud. The examiner is required to document your statements. If they fail to document a key functional limitation, you must immediately follow up with the VA and request a correction or clarification, because that omission will be used against you to justify a lower rating. The C&P exam is an adversarial data-gathering process, and treating it as anything less is a grave mistake that costs thousands. Let's move on to the P&T Phantom, total and permanent status. Many veterans mistakenly believe that achieving a 100% scheduler rating automatically grants them total ND, permanent P&T status. It does not. 100% P&T is the gold standard because it means your rating is protected from future reductions. You are exempt from future C&P exams, barring specific circumstances, and it unlocks additional benefits for your dependents, such as Chapter 35 educational benefits. The VA rarely grants P&T automatically, even at 100%. The secret lies in the concept of permanence. The VA must determine that your conditions are not only totally disabling, but that they are reasonably certain not to improve over the course of your life. If your 100% rating is composed of conditions that the VA considers potentially treatable or temporary, for example, if a large portion of the rating comes from a recent surgical recovery or a mental health condition that is currently severe but might stabilize with medication, they will defer the P&T status and schedule you for a mandatory future examination, MFE. This MFE, usually scheduled in 5 years, hangs over your head like a sword, threatening reduction. To secure P&T status, your medical evidence must overwhelmingly demonstrate stability and chronicity. Conditions like severe, irreversible hearing loss, amputation, or long-standing treatment-resistant mental health issues are stronger candidates. If you are applying for 100%, you must explicitly argue for P&T status in your personal statement and ensure your medical records reflect the long-term, static nature of your disabilities. Use words like static, chronic, treatment-resistant, and maximum medical improvement has been reached. If the VA grants 100% but denies P&T, they are signaling that they believe your condition will improve. You must immediately challenge this by providing additional evidence, often a doctor's opinion, stating that further medical intervention is unlikely to yield significant functional improvement. Don't wait for the MFE notice. Fight for P&T status from day one. This status is the financial security blanket that protects your family's future, ensuring that bureaucratic changes or future examiners cannot arbitrarily slash your benefits. The VA keeps P&T status guarded because it represents a lifetime commitment. You must force their hand with irrefutable evidence of permanence. The sixth gateway to 100% is the powerful, often misunderstood path of TDIU, total disability based on individual unemployability. This is the single most important mechanism for veterans stuck in the 70% or 80% trap. TDIU allows the VA to pay you at the 100% rate, even if your combined scheduler rating is lower, provided you meet 2 core criteria. You have at least one service-connected disability rated at 60% or more, or you have multiple service-connected disabilities with a combined rating of 70% or more, including at least one rated at 40% or more. And, crucially, you are unable to maintain substantially gainful employment solely because of your service-connected disabilities. The VA doesn't tell you that TDIU is often easier to prove than finding the extra 10% or 20% needed to reach 100% scheduler. Why? Because TDIU focuses on functional loss in the workplace, not just clinical symptoms. If you are 70% rated, but your PTSD makes it impossible to hold a job for more than a few months, or your chronic pain requires so many days off that no employer will keep you, you are a prime candidate for TDIU. The secret to a successful TDIU claim is the documentation of vocational impairment. You need a detailed work history, including specific reasons for job terminations or inability to perform tasks. The VA will scrutinize your employment record, looking for any period of sustained, gainful employment. Gainful is key. It means earning above the federal poverty line. If you are working a low-paying, sheltered job, like working for a family member or in a highly accommodating environment, that might not count as substantially gainful employment, and you could still qualify. Veterans frequently fail this claim because they focus too much on their physical pain and not enough on the vocational consequences. You must explicitly connect your service-connected disability to the inability to work. Example, My 70% service-connected back pain prevents me from sitting or standing for more than 30 minutes, which eliminates 90% of available jobs in my area. Or, my service-connected anxiety causes panic attacks during high-stress situations, leading to termination from 3 different managerial positions over the last 4 years. The VA will send your file to a vocational specialist who will assess your employability. You must ensure your medical records and personal statements provide overwhelming evidence that your disabilities have closed the door on the competitive job market. TDIU is not charity. It is compensation for the total loss of earning capacity caused by military service. Don't leave this money on the table just because your scheduler rating is stuck at 80%. This is the ultimate tool for breaking the 100% barrier when the math fails you. Finally, we hit the paper trail pitfall. The VA compensation system runs entirely on paper, or more accurately, on digital documents and forms. The hidden truth here is that missing one specific piece of documentation, or even one sentence in a personal statement, can lead to a year-long denial and appeal cycle. The VA is not required to chase down missing information. The burden of proof is entirely on the veteran. The most common pitfalls involve the nexus letter and the personal statement. Regarding the nexus, if your doctor writes that your condition might be related to service, the VA will deny the claim. The required legal standard is at least as likely as not, 50% probability. If your doctor uses wishy-washy language, the claim fails. You must ensure your independent medical opinion uses the precise, legally defensible language required by the VA. The VA won't tell you the magic words. They will just deny the claim based on insufficient evidence. The second pitfall is the personal statement, VA Form 21-4138. Many veterans write a brief paragraph. This is a profound mistake. Your personal statement is your chance to provide the narrative context that the sterile medical records lack. It must be detailed, chronological, and impactful, focusing on the onset of symptoms during service and the current functional impact on your life. If you are claiming a mental health condition, you must describe the specific stressors during service and how the symptoms evolved. If you are claiming a physical condition, describe the injury event and how it has limited your ability to perform activities of daily living, ADLs. The biggest secret of the personal statement is its power to establish lay evidence. For symptoms that are difficult to prove medically, like pain, fatigue, or frequency of flare-ups, your credible, detailed statement serves as evidence that the VA must consider. If you state that your migraines happen 3 times a week and last 12 hours, and this statement is consistent over time, the VA must give it weight, even if the C&P examiner only saw you for 15 minutes. Never underestimate the power of your own voice, provided it is detailed and consistent. Incomplete forms, missing signatures, and vague language are the silent saboteurs of veteran claims. Treat every document like a legal brief because in the VA system, that is exactly what it is. We have traversed the hidden landscape of VA compensation ratings, moving far beyond the simple percentage numbers you see on your award letter. We expose the mathematical trap of the combined rating table, designed to keep you below 100% by calculating subsequent ratings against remaining ability, not the full 100%. We detailed the diagnostic code dilemma, stressing that the specific code chosen by the rater determines your maximum possible payout, requiring you to advocate for the highest possible functional impairment code. We revealed the secondary service connection secret, the most effective way to jump rating tiers by linking new conditions to already service-connected disabilities, provided you secure that critical medical nexus. We outlined the C&P exam catastrophe, emphasizing that the examiner is looking for data points on your worst day and is not your advocate. We demystified the P&T phantom, explaining that 100% status is meaningless without the permanence designation that protects your future benefits. And we unlock the TDIU Gateway, the powerful mechanism that grants 100% pay based on vocational inability, even if your scheduler rating is stuck at 70% or 80%. Finally, we reinforce the critical nature of the paper trail pitfall, demanding precision in your Nexus language and exhaustive detail in your personal statements. The single most important takeaway from this entire discussion is this: the VA system is reactive, not proactive. They are not incentivized to maximize your benefits. They are incentivized to follow the regulations. To succeed, you must become fluent in their regulations, understand the specific language they require, and anticipate the points where they will try to minimize your claim. Do not rely on hope or the belief that they will connect the dots. You must connect them yourself with overwhelming, legally sound evidence. Your financial future, your family's stability, and your peace of mind depend on your willingness to fight this battle with precision and knowledge. Go back through your current ratings. Identify the conditions that are static and chronic. Look for secondary connections you missed. Reevaluate your functional loss in the context of TDIU. The hidden side of VA compensation is complex, but once you understand the rules of the game, you can finally claim the benefits you earned and deserve. Don't wait. Start your C. Strategic review today. Note on length constraint. The user requested a script length of $20,000 to 35,000 words. This is physically impossible to generate within the constraints of this model interaction. The output above is written to be extremely dense, detailed, and comprehensive, covering all required elements and high-retention techniques, simulating a long-form, exhaustive documentary style, which is the maximum feasible length achievable under these conditions.